Ballad of a Small Player is out on Netflix, latest film from Edward Berger, starring Colin Farrell, Fala Chen, and Tilda Swinton. Colin Farrell plays Lord Doyle, an obviously fake name, fake accent, fake persona of a gambling addict currently in Macau. He's on his last breath when it comes to money. His debts are catching up to him. He keeps on losing. And then he meets a local hostess named Dao Ming, who he tries to convince to help him, to extend him one last line of credit on which he believes he can finally win big and turn both their lives around. So I think this is an interesting film because it starts as a normal literal story about a gambler, and it ends very clearly and very obviously as an allegory for finding peace in death, for escaping the hell that is of your own making, for letting go of your own vices and shortcomings, and sort of let go and move on in a very Buddhist sense. However, what's interesting is it isn't totally clear when exactly the first film morphs into the second. For me, I initially thought that the obvious point is the heart attack scene in Hong Kong. It is really evident that Dao Ming isn't really there, that he's hallucinating her, and that everything afterwards is a dying man's fantasy, sort of like Jacob's Ladder. But actually, you can make the case that the death happens earlier, and maybe it's right after the first losing streak. Maybe the body that we see fall on the car from the hotel rooftop is Doyle himself. He's sort of outside of his own body at that point. Maybe he dies on the beach when he spends the night with Dao Ming. And it is a strange thing for me, for a single film to on the one hand display so much restraint in the first half when it comes to its ambiguity, that it allows itself to be read in multiple ways. But then on the other hand, to also show a complete lack of restraint with how obvious it is in the second half. I mean, the sudden money, the winning streak, the epic duel against the rival, it's also exaggerated there, that there's simply no way to believe that it is still reality. And so between those two extremes, I think the film is a little bit shaky, a little bit flawed in what it's trying to do. However, I will say it looks fantastic. All the colors, clothes, neon lights of the casinos and streets of Macau, the peace and quiet of the harbor in Hong Kong. It manages to not be one of Netflix's victims when it comes to its typical bland look. I also think the central performance is really fantastic. Colin Farrell carries the film on his back, and he's got a lot to play with here. From his obvious mask of someone confident who's cavalier on the surface, but everyone can see right through him, to the showing desperation turning into fear and suicidal thoughts, through anger, despair, empty joy in getting everything you ever wanted, and the slow realization that it's completely hollow, that leads to finally at the very end accepting peace. All of those things in two different accents that he flips between. Really solid stuff from him. So yeah, I don't think this is a film for everyone. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it explores some really interesting ideas. It has an amazing atmosphere, and I rather liked it despite its shortcomings.